Hey guys, tonight we're pulling back the velvet curtain on a world filled with polished shoes, whisper level footsteps, and tea that must never be served a minute too late or too early, heaven forbid. Welcome to your new life as a Victorian butler. Yes, you, you, with your sleepy eyes and your cozy blanket. Tonight, you'll be waking up at 4 a.m. sharp, ironing other people's socks, and possibly being blamed for the unfortunate death of a houseplant, all while maintaining perfect posture. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. Let's see who's falling asleep in the most ridiculous time zones. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You awaken to the delicate chime of a clock so expensive you are not allowed to look directly at it. The hour is horrifically early, before sunrise, before birdsong, before logic. Yet here you are, already dressed in starch that could slice butter, staring at a brass doorknob with the kind of focus most people reserve for disarming bombs. Your morning begins with a ritual older than electricity, lighting fires. Every room must be warm before its occupant stirs. That means creeping into rooms like a soot-covered ninja with a box of matches and hoping you don't sneeze mid-strike. Because nothing says incompetence like waking Lady Worthingstone with a fire that pops. Next, you polish everything: the doorknobs, the boot buckles, the bell pulls, the other butler's buttons if necessary. There is no surface safe from your cloth. A single fingerprint is social suicide. Then, breakfast prep. You don't cook, of course. The kitchen maid does that, and she hates you for reasons unclear but deeply felt. Your job is to inspect, very seriously inspect, the silver trays and ensure the toast arrives warm but not sweaty. Yes, toast can sweat. You've seen it. It haunts you. As the household begins to stir, you prepare to blend into the background like a particularly judgmental shadow. Eye contact is not forbidden, but strongly discouraged, unless it's to bow, nod, or receive the Countess's teacup with a reverent grace. You are invisible, unless you make a mistake. Then, suddenly, you are theatrically visible. But despite the tension, there's rhythm to it. A choreography of slippers on marble, spoons tapping china, and your soft footsteps pacing invisible paths like a ghost in formal wear. The day has only just begun, and you're already behind. You glide across the checkered marble hallway like a feather trained in etiquette. Behind every door lies a routine. Behind every curtain, a potential scandal involving overwatered begonias or misplaced cufflinks. You are the quiet force holding this porcelain house together. Your next task? The mail. You descend to the front vestibule, where the morning post arrives with the weight of monarchy and mild gossip. Today's stack includes 4 invitations, 2 overdue bills, and a handwritten letter from Lady Worthington's second cousin, who only writes in French to feel superior. You must sort them with surgical precision. This envelope goes to the study tray, that one to the breakfast table, this third one straight to the fireplace. You've seen that handwriting before. It belongs to a gentleman with more opinions than income. Once the mail is delivered, it's time for the rounds. This is your walking meditation, during which you inspect every room, every hallway, every vase of wilting peonies. You take mental notes like a detective at a crime scene. Is the umbrella stand off center? Has someone moved the bust of Wellington 3 degrees to the left? Was that boot print always shaped like betrayal? Your feet know the exact number of steps from the foyer to the conservatory. The floorboards creak in places only you can hear. Somewhere in the drawing room, a grandfather clock ticks with the judgmental tempo of someone who once owned land and never lets you forget it. In the breakfast room, Lord Worthingstone is halfway through a boiled egg and 3 complaints. He does not greet you, but you know he appreciates the newspaper being ironed. Yes, ironed. This is your life. Back in the hallway, you adjust a mirror that is tilted a single millimeter since yesterday. Historians often debate whether Victorian domestic staff possessed preternatural vision or simply trauma-based attention to detail. The answer, as you now know, is yes. Outside, the first guests begin to arrive. Carriages rolling onto gravel like thunder wrapped in velvet. You retreat behind the curtain, your hands folded behind your back, expression calm. You are everywhere and nowhere, and the day marches on. It's now mid-morning, which in a Victorian mansion means chaos in silk gloves. The parlor is alive with conversation about topics no one understands, but everyone pretends to. A lady in feathers discusses Italian opera like she was born in a harpsichord. You, meanwhile, are focused on ensuring no one sits on the decorative pillows. Again, you move like smoke, collecting empty teacups before they even cool, refilling sugar bowls and straightening carpets that shift a quarter-inch whenever Lady Worthingstone laughs too hard. Then comes the tray. Ah yes, the tray. Your trial by porcelain. You balance 6 teacups, a tower of delicate saucers, and something suspiciously gelatinous wobbling in a dish no one asked for. The tray must never rattle. It must never tilt. It must not betray you. And yet, the cat appears. No one remembers who owns the cat. It isn't fed, spoken to, or acknowledged. But it guards the doorway, like a tiny, judgmental sphinx. You stop. You bow. The cat stares. It does not move. You wait. Eventually, the cat relents. You pass. You are victorious. You deliver the tray with the grace of a cloud and the nerves of a condemned poet. Lady Worthingstone nods faintly, approval or indigestion. You bow and step away, already calculating the exact distance between the curtains and your next task. That task is dusting. Again, you dusted yesterday. You will dust tomorrow. But today, the dust mocks you, returning overnight like a passive-aggressive ghost. You begin in the library, brushing shelves with the tenderness of someone petting a sleeping lion. You pause before the globe. It's beautiful, heavy, and wildly inaccurate. You spin it once for luck, because superstition is all you have left. There's a knock at the door. Delivery. A crate of wine bottles. Expensive, French, and likely to be consumed by someone who thinks Bordeaux is a shoe brand. You carry them down to the cellar, which smells like ambition, mildew, and 300 years of family secrets. You stack the bottles neatly. You exhale. The bell rings upstairs. You climb quickly. A hat has gone missing, and the universe teeters. You're not a butler. You're gravity. The hat has been found, of course. It was exactly where hats often are, on the head of someone who insisted they weren't a tea-wearing one. Crisis averted. You do not receive thanks. You receive a nod, which in this house is basically A standing ovation. Lunchtime nears, which means the real ballet begins. The dining room must be perfect. The silverware is aligned by micrometer. The napkins are folded into abstract origami you're certain no guest will appreciate. A single wilted parsley garnish is removed with tweezers. You light the candles, despite it being noon, because ambiance is mandatory and logic is optional. You retreat to your post just beyond the dining room door. You stand, silent, still, like an extremely disciplined statue with a strong opinion about soup. The family eats. You do not. You listen for dropped forks, for sniffles, for awkward pauses that might signal the need for intervention, usually in the form of more wine. Lord Worthingstone begins a story about fox hunting that sounds suspiciously similar to one he told yesterday. You do not sigh. You think about the wine cellar. You think about becoming a fox. After lunch, it's time to assist the valet. This is not your primary duty, but the house is short-staffed today. Again, likely due to someone accidentally locking the scullery maid in the pantry. She's fine, mostly. You help press trousers. You iron a cravat that costs more than your year's salary. You find a cufflink in a shoe. You do not ask why. Instead, you pocket it and return it quietly later, without explanation. That's the Butler way. Mid-afternoon brings deliveries, arguments, and a goose that somehow ended up in the herb garden. You shoo it away, using only your presence. The goose respects you, more than some family members do. By now your feet ache. But there is still tea to serve. Again, because apparently in Victorian society, the body runs on gossip and caffeine alone. You prepare the teapot. You warm the cups. You fluff the pillows. You position yourself exactly 3 steps away from wherever disaster might strike. And still, the dog eats a scone. You remain calm. You are the butler. And no one, not even a greedy terrier with no regard for etiquette, can shake your composure. The dog, blissfully unaware of the social collapse it nearly triggered, now naps beneath the piano like a retired duke. You gently remove the crumbs from the floor, the table, and the foot of a guest who didn't notice the theft. No one thanks you, but no one screams either. That's victory. The sun has begun to slant low through the stained glass windows, casting kaleidoscope patches of color on the floor. It would be beautiful if you weren't actively trying to polish that floor for the 3rd time today. You catch your reflection in a serving tray. You look composed. On the outside, inside, you re-reciting all 3 verses of the estate's emergency candle protocol just to keep your mind from slipping into full existential spiral. Then, the piano. A guest has decided to grace the room with music. You must smile, even though their playing sounds like a swan being emotionally blackmailed. You offer tea. You offer biscuits. You offer divine intervention with your eyes alone. They do not notice. The music continues. You start preparing the drawing room for evening, lighting more candles, opening fresh matches with ceremonial reverence, and replacing a flower arrangement that has, somehow, died of boredom. In the hallway, you're stopped by a child. No one's child, technically. They belong to someone upstairs, but they roam freely, sticky-fingered and full of suspicion. They ask if you live in the walls. You pause. You consider it. Emotionally? Yes. You tell them no. They do not believe you. The child runs off, laughing. You make a note to check the sugar bowl. Evening draws closer. The guests retire to change for dinner. You begin setting the dining room again. Yes, again. Because the salad fork is not the fish fork, and if the dessert spoon is 1 centimeter too far to the left, someone will compose a letter to the Times. You exhale. You straighten the napkins. You realign your soul. Dinner is coming, and with it, a dozen courses of crisis. Dinner begins with the precision of a military operation, disguised in lace. The bell rings. You open the doors. The guests file in like swans who've read too many etiquette manuals. You take your place behind Lord Worthingstone's chair, the place of highest scrutiny and consequently highest risk. The soup is served. Not by you. Oh no, that would be improper. It is presented by the footmen, whose uniforms are newer, their gloves whiter, and their understanding of household politics laughable. One of them spills a drop. Just one. But you see it. The table doesn't react, but the air tenses like a violin string pulled too tight. You handle it. Quietly, efficiently, gracefully. You are the ghost that cleans disasters before they exist. The courses arrive one after another. Soup, fish, entree, roast, salad, pudding, cheese, dessert, and some strange French thing no one knows how to pronounce, but everyone pretends to enjoy. You refill glasses exactly when needed. You anticipate sneezes. You swap out napkins mid-meal, like a magician performing for royalty. Lord Worthingstone tells a joke. It's not good. The room laughs anyway. You do not. But inside, you applaud his commitment. At one point, Lady Worthingstone waves her hand, discreetly requesting the other salt. You retrieve it from a locked drawer in the pantry. It is identical to the first salt, but it is the right salt. Dinner ends. Sort of. There's still port, and cigars, and scandal whispered over creme brulee. But your part is done, for now. You retreat to the butler's pantry, where you are finally allowed to sit. The stool is hard, the air is warm, the teacup in your hand is chipped, but it is yours. You savor every sip like it was brewed by monks atop a holy mountain. Your legs ache, your back protests, but your mind is oddly clear. You did it. You got them through dinner. No injuries, no broken heirlooms, no tears, at least not public ones. In this house, that's a flawless victory. Night has finally cloaked the estate, and the mansion exhales, its gaslights dimmed, its curtains drawn, its chandeliers flickering like tired stars. Upstairs, the guests retreat to their rooms, full of pudding and half-truths. Downstairs, you prepare for Act 2, the evening reset. You begin with the library, where a gentleman has abandoned his monocle on the chessboard like a tiny, glassy war trophy. You retrieve it silently and place it on a silk tray, as if it were a Fabergé egg rather than an item most people forget existed. Then you collect the ashtrays, all of them. You have never once seen someone use one, and yet, each night, they contain enough ashes to bury a confession. You fluff the pillows. Again, you realign a single candle wick because it's tilting impudently. You dim lights room by room, closing doors so gently the hinges barely dare to creak. And then, the bell. Late night tea for Lady Worthingstone. You don't flinch. You don't sigh. You simply nod and go. You prepare the tray. You heat the pot. You select the specific blend labeled Evening Rose Cloud with a hint of melancholy. You ascend the stairs, mindful of the fourth step. It groans when insulted. You knock once. The door opens. Barely. A hand appears. The tray is taken. No eye contact. No words. The door closes. Perfection. You turn to leave and find the house cat blocking the stairs. Again, its eyes narrow. You bow. It yawns. You step around it carefully, like diffusing a furry landmine. Back downstairs, you check the locks. You extinguish the final hallway lamp. And finally, you return to your quarters. A single room, barely wider than your outstretched arms. But it is clean. It is yours. You sit on the edge of the bed and remove your gloves, your vest, your day. You exhale. The house is asleep. And for now, so are its demands. You lie down. You close your eyes. And somewhere in the distance, a guest rings the bell. You smile into the darkness. Of course they do. It's barely past midnight, but your return to bed is short-lived. The bell tolls again. This time, from the west wing. A guest has a request. They always do. You rise, without complaint. The soles of your shoes whispering against the wooden floor as you move like a breeze trained in etiquette. The request? Hot water, but not too hot. Just warm enough to soothe the nerves, but not so warm that it makes the orchids wilt. You bow. Naturally, you carry the copper jug down to the kitchen, refill it from the kettle, and test the temperature with the back of your hand, channeling the instincts of a seasoned tea sommelier crossed with a weather witch. You carry it back upstairs, careful not to spill a single drop. At the guest's door, you knock, you deliver, you bow. The door closes. You exhale, and just as you turn, there it is again. The cat, this time, sitting on the banister, like a gargoyle mid-retirement. You nod with respect. The cat yawns. Some say Victorian butlers were trained in martial arts. Others claim they were trained in feline diplomacy. You are beginning to believe it's both. Back downstairs, you record the evening disturbances in the household log. 12:11 a.m. Hot water request. 12:19 a.m. Cat observed maintaining surveillance from elevated position. You return to your room. Again, your bed, humble as it is, greets you like a long-lost friend. You lay down, close your eyes, and dream of polished floors, unspilled trays, and finally figuring out how to politely tell a guest their perfume smells like aggressive lemon cake. You sleep for an hour, maybe two, until the birds begin to chirp outside your window, breaking the night like fragile glass. You rise again, adjust your collar, straighten your posture, and whisper to no one in particular, let's do this all over again, because you are the butler, and breakfast waits for no one. The first light of morning slinks over the hills and spills into the estate like a guest who never really left. You are already up. Of course you are. You're dressed, polished, and have already lit 3 fires, fluffed 2 sofas, and quietly convinced the dining room rug to stop curling at the edges like an old villain's mustache. Today is Tuesday, which means linen inventory, which means despair. You descend to the laundry quarters, humid, echoing, slightly haunted by the ghost of a footman who once overstarched a curtain and was never seen again. Stacks of towels glare at you, tablecloths, handkerchiefs, monogrammed napkins, folded into crisp, judgmental rectangles. You count each piece, twice. Then you document each one in the linen ledger using handwriting so small and neat it would bring a tear to a librarian ESI. Midway through, you discover an unidentified napkin. It has a W, but not your W scandal. You set it aside, unsure if it's treason or just a laundering mix-up with the neighbors. Either way, it's above your pay grade. You'll deliver it in a sealed envelope labeled MISC. Suspicion. Back upstairs, the cook has begun to assemble breakfast. You offer your help. She declines, then proceeds to yell instructions at you anyway. Such is the dance of unspoken teamwork. You fetch eggs, plates, the correct marmalade, not the one with visible peel, and half a grapefruit, which you must slice into perfect hemispheres of acidic anxiety. By the time breakfast is plated, you're already holding the silver tray. Yes, that tray. You carry it like it's made of air and judgment. The toast is vertical. The butter is symmetrical. You serve the table. Lord Worthingstone frowns slightly at the grapefruit. You consider diving out the window. He eats it anyway. Victory. You refill the tea. You adjust a curtain. You retrieve the newspaper before it lands askew on the doorstep. Everything is in its place. Everything is just so. And then someone sneezes. Twice. You retrieve a handkerchief, perfectly folded, embroidered, and freshly steamed. You hand it over without a word. You are the butler. And you are. Quietly, politely, subtly, holding the entire world together with a napkin and a half smile. As the day rolls forward, your responsibilities become a steady symphony of small tasks and silent vigilance. The afternoon sunlight pools in the drawing room, where portraits of ancestors watch over the latest generation of aristocrats gossiping about the weather and the latest scandal at the opera. Your job is to make sure everything stays exactly as it should. Nothing more, nothing less. You rearrange a vase by a hair's breadth, adjust a cushion with a flick of your wrist, and sweep up crumbs from the last discreet tea party without attracting attention. A sudden sneeze echoes from the corner. You respond instantly, producing a handkerchief like a magician pulling a rabbit from a hat. The lady thanks you with a smile that doesn't quite reach her eyes. You nod, understanding that sometimes the smallest gestures carry the greatest weight. Mid-afternoon calls for a brief respite, a chance to enjoy a cup of watered-down tea in the servants' quarters. You sit quietly, savoring the momentary calm before the evening's bustle begins. But even here, the rhythm of the mansion never fully slows. The distant clatter of footsteps, the soft murmur of conversation, the faint tinkle of crystal glasses, it all blends into a gentle soundtrack that follows you like a shadow. Your thoughts drift to the pile of letters waiting to be sorted, the unknown secrets tucked inside each envelope, the lives unfolding beyond these walls. You take a deep breath, steadying yourself, because tomorrow you'll do it all again, with the same quiet grace and the same invisible strength. As twilight creeps through the stained glass windows, you prepare for one of the most delicate parts of your day, the lighting of the mansion. Gas lamps need igniting, candles trimming, and fireplaces coaxed back to life. It's a ritual that requires steady hands and patience, two things you're beginning to master, even if your knees sometimes protest from hours spent on polished floors. You gather the necessary tools, a brass snuffer, a bundle of matchsticks, and a long-handled taper, and begin your rounds. Each room is a world unto itself. The library filled with whispered secrets, the drawing room fragrant with fresh flowers, the study heavy with the scent of leather-bound volumes. You light the lamps one by one, watching as shadows retreat and warmth blooms. The flicker of candlelight creates a dance of soft shapes, casting the room in gentle, forgiving light. In the music room, a stray candle, guttering, threatens to drip wax on a prized violin. You steady your breath and act swiftly, saving the instrument from an expensive bath. In the hallway, a sudden draft sends a curtain fluttering like a startled bird. You smooth it down with a quiet sigh. Your hands are steady, your movements sure. The mansion settles into night, wrapped in light and silence. You feel a quiet pride, not in the grandeur of the task, but in the smallness of the moments, the care, the attention, the invisible hands that hold everything together when the world grows dark. Night deepens, and with it, the mansion settles into a rhythm all its own. The guests have retired, the laughter has softened to murmurs, and the heavy curtains are drawn tight to hold the world at bay. But your work is not done. There is still the task of the evening inventory. You enter the pantry, where shelves groan under the weight of preserves, spices, and bottles of mysterious liquid meant to cure everything from indigestion to social awkwardness. You check the stock meticulously, noting every jar and bottle with precision only born of necessity. A jar of pickled onions winks at you from the back shelf. You shudder. Nearby, a crate of exotic fruits from faraway lands sits untouched. You wonder if anyone actually eats these, or if they exist only to impress guests and confuse the cook. The ledger awaits your updates. You add today's numbers with the care of a scribe and the patience of a saint. As you close the pantry door, the faintest sound catches your attention, the soft pad of paws. The cat, again. This time, it rubs against your leg, demanding attention on its own terms. You kneel and offer a gentle hand. For a moment, the world slows. You think you've made a new friend. Then it bites you. You recoil. The cat has won again. You rise, chuckling softly, and prepare for the final rounds. Tonight, the mansion sleeps, but you, the silent sentinel, remain alert. The early morning mist curls around the estate like a whispered secret, softening the sharp edges of the night. You rise once again before the sun, muscles tight but spirit steady. Today brings new challenges, delicate ones dressed in silk and veiled in expectation. You begin with the flower arrangements. In the grand hall, towering vases demand your attention. You approach them with the reverence of a priestess and the precision of a jeweler. Each stem is inspected, each petal smoothed, each leaf adjusted. One flower wilts, a tragedy. You remove it with swift grace and replace it with a fresh bloom. From the conservatory, the scent of jasmine and rose mingles in the air, a fleeting fragrance that brings a momentary smile to your lips. Next, you oversee the valet's wardrobe preparations for the day. Jackets must be pressed to perfection, hats set at just the right angle, gloves folded without a single crease. You iron a cravat with the delicacy of someone defusing a bomb. The valet watches, a mixture of admiration and mild terror in his eyes. Later, you rehearse the opening of doors and the smooth transition of guests from carriage to foyer. It's a dance you've perfected, the choreography invisible but crucial. As you bow to the morning's duties, a sudden gust scatters loose papers across the library floor. You sigh, smile, and begin to gather them, because no matter how perfect the day, chaos will always find a way, and you will be there to manage it, with grace, patience, and just a hint of dry wit. Midday returns with a sense of repetition that is oddly comforting. You know the rhythm now, the quiet thrum of polished shoes against marble, the soft clink of china behind doors, the occasional unexpected crash that signals someone trying to reach the sherry cabinet too early in the day. You're summoned to the drawing room. A guest has spilled ink, not on themselves, on a map, a historical map that may or may not have belonged to Lord Worthingstone's grandfather. You are not told what to do, only that it must be fixed. Immediately, you nod, calmly, internally, your soul screams. You retreat to the study, retrieve a cloth, some mineral spirits, and a prayer passed down from previous generations of butlers. Gently, you dab, dab again. The ink lifts. Slowly, miraculously, the guest weeps. You offer them a handkerchief, scented with faint lavender and unspoken judgment. Then, without fanfare, you return to your post, because no matter how dramatic the disaster, your role is to disappear just as it's resolved. Later, in the hallway, you pass by the grandfather clock. It chimes once, just for you, you think. You bow. You've earned that. In the afternoon, you host a quiet tour for distant relatives who've decided to pop in. You lead them through rooms they remember differently, correcting them politely when they refer to the breakfast room as the conservatory. You explain the renovations. You field inappropriate questions. You pretend not to hear the loud whispers about how the staff has changed. One of them calls you Jeeves. You smile and consider the merits of changing your name entirely. The tour ends. Tea is served. Another crisis averted. Another quiet victory recorded in the invisible ledger of survival. Evening approaches once more, wrapping the estate in golden shadows, and that particular hush that falls over grand houses when the wine is decanted and the day's absurdities are temporarily forgiven. Tonight, there's a small dinner party, intimate, they say, though it includes 12 guests, 4 servants, and a goose pâté that required 3 separate approval letters. You orchestrate the affair like a maestro with an invisible baton. The silver gleams. The linens are flawless. The glasses ring like soft bells with every pour. Lord Worthingstone makes a toast. You catch the eye of a footman across the room and give the faintest nod, an entire paragraph of instruction packed into a millimeter of movement. The evening flows. There are no spills, no fainting, no aggressive debates about Napoleon or asparagus. You are quietly victorious. After dinner, the guests retire to the music room. Someone plays a nocturne, badly, but with feeling. You refill glasses, you adjust curtains. You smile at the dog, who seems to approve of your performance. At last, the guests depart. You bow. You close the great oak doors, and for the first time in hours, you exhale. You retire to your quarters, not with haste, but with the grace of someone who has survived 100 miniature disasters without letting a single one show. You remove your gloves, fold your jacket, sit on the edge of the narrow bed. The candle flickers, and you whisper to yourself, I did it. Not for glory, not for applause, but because quiet excellence matters. Even if no one notices, you lie back, close your eyes, and allow the silence to wrap around you like a second uniform. You are the butler, and for tonight, the mansion sleeps because of you. The next morning begins not with a bell, but with silence. Too much silence. You open your eyes, sit up, and realize no breakfast trays, clattering, no distant arguing about marmalade. No confused footman knocking over a lamp in the hallway. Something is wrong. You dress in record time. Your shoes barely touch the floor. You arrive in the main hall, and then you see it. A letter, sealed with wax, addressed to you, from the lady herself. You open it slowly, as if it might bite. It reads, "Dear Butler, I trust you slept well. This morning, the household will conduct a silent etiquette rehearsal. No speaking until noon. This includes you. Kindly ensure compliance. L.W." You blink. Once. Twice. Of course, a silent rehearsal. Because what's breakfast without 3 hours of wordless tension and unspoken judgment? You begin your rounds like a monk who polished silver for penance. The guests, confused and sleepy, stumble into their routines. Some attempting charades to request tea, others mouthing butter with increasing desperation. You manage to serve 6 full trays, redirect a guest who nearly wandered into the wrong bedroom, and politely remind the cat, silently, that the piano is not its throne. Everything feels surreal until someone sneezes, loudly, a collective intake of breath, then silence. You hand over a handkerchief with the grace of a diplomat, a nod of thanks. No one dares speak. By the time the clock strikes noon, the spell breaks. Voices return. Laughter erupts. You breathe again, and someone says, "Well, that was dreadful." You agree, internally. Then you bow and carry on. After the silent morning debacle TM concludes, the mansion exhales with the collective relief of a room where people can finally complain again. Voices rise, requests return, and your job, oddly, becomes simpler now that everyone's allowed to be difficult out loud. Your next task? Inventory the silver. Again. Not because it changed overnight, but because someone insists the sugar tongs looked a bit melancholy at tea yesterday. You unlock the cabinet with a key tied to your belt and begin the count. 42 spoons, 12 forks, 3 forks pretending to be spoons, 1 mystery ladle no one remembers acquiring, but everyone fears. You polish each item, inspecting the reflection in the bowl of a serving spoon until your face looks less like a tired butler and more like a respected ghost. Then, the footman bursts into the pantry like a startled pheasant. There's been an incident. Of course there has. You follow him to the dining room, where Lady Worthingstone stands over a shattered vase. The man beside her is pale. The dog looks guilty. The culprit, unclear. You bow. She says, "Find me something more majestic by this evening." You nod, as if that's a normal thing to say. You venture to the storage wing, a shadowy corridor of forgotten furniture and questionable decisions. There, tucked behind a settee, shaped like a swan having a crisis, you find a towering crystal urn no one's seen since the Queen visited in '87. You clean it, carry it back, place it carefully in the dining room. Lady Worthingstone nods. You may live. You bow again, unclear if it was a joke. Probably not. The rest of the afternoon blurs into errands, polishings, and resurrections of household items no one cared about until today. You find a sugar bowl under the harpsichord, a cushion stuffed behind a painting, a letter addressed to the handsome one, and modestly, do not open it. You are the butler, and the house, majestic or otherwise, continues to stand because you do. By mid-afternoon, the house has entered what you privately call the hour of demands and despair. It's the time of day when tea is both too hot and too cold, when chairs are too stiff but too soft, and someone will inevitably ask for a very specific book they haven't seen since 1843. That book? It's a treatise on moral posture, apparently last seen propping up a chamber pot during the Great Cough of 29. You begin the search. Library? No. Music room? No. But you do find a banana tucked between piano keys. You do not ask why. You eventually discover the book behind the fireplace screen in the conservatory, slightly scorched, smelling faintly of regret. You dust it off, wrap it in a silk cloth, and deliver it to Lord Worthingstone, with a bow so elegant it should be taught in fencing academies. He grunts approval, high praise. You take that momentum and flow into the next task, overseeing the cleaning of the chandeliers. The ladder is tall, the oil is slippery, the footman is terrified. You steady the base, offering both physical and emotional support, while he clings to the frame like a raccoon on a tightrope. Eventually, all 27 crystal pendants are sparkling. You document this in your mental archive under Miracles subcategory. No one fell. As the afternoon fades, a telegram arrives. Urgent. The envelope crackles in your hand. You bring it to Lady Worthingstone, who opens it with the theatrical dread of someone expecting to be cursed. She gasps. Aunt Cordelia will be visiting. Tonight. You nod, as if this doesn't completely upend the universe. Furniture must be rearranged, bedrooms rescented, curtains rehemmed, fruit bowls inspected for blemishes, emotional or physical. You organize the staff like a battlefield commander who once read Sun Tzu and decided to apply it to table linens. And just before sunset, the bell tolls. The carriage arrives. Aunt Cordelia steps out. Hat enormous, judgment larger. She enters, inspects, sniffs, nods. You'll do. You bow so low, your back nearly relocates. Another crisis survived. Another page added to your ever-expanding book of unspoken victories. Aunt Cordelia's arrival is the kind of event that doesn't merely ripple through the mansion. It tsunamis. You are summoned almost immediately after her third critique of the hallway rug, and second, at the spacing between sconces. She would like hot cocoa, but not just any cocoa. No cinnamon, she says. No clove, no nutmeg, nothing fancy. Just pure chocolate, like they used to drink before anyone got clever. You bow, then sprint, with dignity, to the kitchen. The cook narrows her eyes when you explain. So, brown water? You smile. Exactly. The cocoa is made. Rich, hot, unfussy. You place it on a tray with the grace of a ballerina born into servitude and carry it upstairs, navigating the creaking steps with the precision of someone who knows that a single spill could become a family legend. Aunt Cordelia sips, pauses, then nods. You are not dismissed, but accepted. The higher honor. The evening rolls on. You set the fires, close the drapes, fluff a pillow with so much finesse, it earns an actual well done from a passing cousin. After dinner, Cordelia takes the library. No one else is allowed in. You, however, are called. She hands you a tattered envelope. I found this behind the map cabinet. It's addressed to a Lord Cedric. Wasn't he eaten by a horse? You blink. You do not ask follow-up questions. You bow, take the letter, and vow never to open it. Cordelia watches you go, and for the briefest moment, smiles. You wonder if anyone has seen that smile, and live to tell about it. Later that night, you polish the candelabras with a cloth worn thinner than your patience, and reflect on how many hours you've spent making things shine that no one notices, but you notice. And sometimes So does Aunt Cordelia. The wind howls gently outside. The cat sneezes in the corridor. All is as it should be. And you're the keeper of cocoa, secrets, and peace. The clock strikes 11, and the house descends into its nightly ritual of denial. Denying it's tired, denying anything is out of place, denying that anyone just heard a vase break on the third floor. You rise from your short-lived rest to investigate, because of course you do. Upstairs, you find a maid frozen mid-step, a shattered vase at her feet, and a look of horror reserved only for people who've just destroyed a family heirloom once admired by Queen Victoria. Possibly. You say nothing. You nod. You fetch a broom. Together, you clean up the evidence, like two secret agents, with a dustpan and shared trauma. The pieces are swept, the floor wiped, the story rewritten. The vase wasn't broken. It slipped into retirement. You replace it with a floral arrangement, so majestic it could distract an archaeologist. Disaster deflected. Morale preserved. You return to your room for the second time that evening, only to discover the cat is already there, on your pillow. Again, you bow. It does not move. You sleep on the edge, as one does when ruled by a furry despot. At 3 a.m., the bell rings again. Aunt Cordelia would like to know where the moon went. She swears it was just there. You assure her, gently, that it's behind a cloud. Possibly offended, she accepts this, barely. Morning eventually arrives. Slower, groggier, slightly insulted. You prepare breakfast trays with trembling hands and too much marmalade. The bread is toasted to a level known only as acceptable. Downstairs, you receive a note from Cordelia. Your silence speaks volumes. The cocoa was tolerable. The cat respects you. That is all. You fold the note and add it to your collection of emotionally confusing compliments. You survived Aunt Cordelia. And that is Butler legend. You make yourself a small cup of tea, exhale into it like a monk finishing a long chant, and take one single, uninterrupted sip. Then the bell rings. Because of course it does. The day begins with an unusual sense of foreboding. Not the dramatic kind, but the subtle tension that comes when the kitchen is too quiet and the dog has not judged anyone yet. You check the calendar. Ah, it's inspection day. Once a month, the estate receives a visit from a most feared guest. Mr. Penniforth, the property inspector, a man whose spirit animal is a clipboard and whose mustache is sharper than his opinions. You begin preparations immediately. All carpets must be brushed with a rake. Yes, a rake. All chairs must be angled precisely 45 degrees toward the fireplace, regardless of whether the fireplace is lit or even exists. You organize the staff into formations that would impress a marching band. Dust levels are monitored. Teacups are rotated so the handles face 4 o'clock, never 3, and the footman is instructed to stop breathing so loudly. At precisely 9 a.m., the bell tolls. Mr. Penniforth arrives in a gray coat so stiff it could walk on its own. He sniffs the air. He sniffs you. Too lemony, he mutters. You apologize for existing citrus. He begins his tour. He checks under rugs, behind portraits. He measures curtain symmetry with a small brass compass. He taps the wall panels for hollow deception. At one point, he licks a window. No one knows why. No one questions it. You trail behind him, notepad in hand, documenting every passive-aggressive sigh. Finally, he reaches the ballroom. He pauses. He inspects the chandelier. Then, with the gravity of a bishop declaring sainthood, He says, "Acceptable." You nearly cry, but you don't, because you're a butler. You escort Mr. Penniforth to the door. He leaves behind only a faint scent of disapproval and 3 tiny footprints in the hallway dust. Not yours, thank heavens. You collapse emotionally inside the pantry and eat one unauthorized biscuit. You've earned it. After the whirlwind that is Mr. Penniforth departs, the mansion seems to breathe a collective sigh. Curtains relax. Furniture settles. Even the fireplace crackles with less anxiety. You, however, remain alert, because post-inspection euphoria always invites post-inspection chaos, and chaos, right on cue, arrives in the form of a misplaced opera singer. Yes, an opera singer. Apparently, Lady Worthingstone has decided that tonight's dinner shall be accompanied by a touch of refined drama, and Signora Bellanotte has been invited for a surprise performance. Only she arrived 6 hours early, and she's already warmed up twice in the laundry room at full volume. You relocate her to the music room, offer tea, and bow your way out before she can ask for just one more scale. Next, preparations for the refined drama dinner. You supervise the transformation of the dining room into something between Versailles and mild hysteria. Candelabras are polished to the point of existential reflection. The silver is arranged in spirals. For flair, each guest's name is handwritten on tiny scrolls, tucked into antique thimbles. You don't ask. You just execute. At one point, the dog steals a ribbon and vanishes. You don't chase it. You simply add "re-ribbon the centerpiece" to your mental checklist. Then comes wardrobe. You assist Lord Worthingstone in selecting a cravat that says, "I support the arts, but fear high notes." He settles on navy silk with tiny embroidery of a harp. It's a statement piece. The statement is mostly confusion. Guests begin to arrive. The dining room glows. And at 7 sharp, Signora Bellanotte is announced. She enters like thunder in a gown made of tension and sequins. You dim the lights. She begins. The room is mesmerized. Halfway through, someone weeps into their consommé. You gently swap their spoon for a fresh one. Mid-sob. Flawless. By dessert, the applause shakes the chandelier. You bow from the shadows. A guest turns and whispers, "The butler arranged all this, didn't he?" Someone else replies, "Of course. He runs the whole house." You pretend not to hear, but you tuck the words away like a pressed flower between pages. The morning after the refined drama dinner arrives with all the grace of a cat demanding breakfast. Persistent, loud, and utterly unapologetic. You wake to the faint scent of spilled wine lingering in the air, a reminder of last night's festivities and the ever-present challenge of cleanup. Your first task is damage assessment. You traverse the estate, inspecting tables for sticky spots, carpets for mysterious stains, and the piano bench for inexplicable crumbs. The dog, still proud of its ribbon heist, watches you from beneath the grand staircase with guilty eyes. In the kitchen, the cook's glare is sharper than a cleaver. You offer apologies with the sincerity of a diplomat negotiating peace. Then comes the mail, stacked neatly by the front door. It includes bills, invitations, and a postcard from an aunt who clearly expects you to visit soon. You sort it quickly. Lord Worthingstone's correspondence first, Lady Worthingstone's next, and finally the stack marked "miscellaneous." Handle with care. You suspect this is code for "don't open." After delivering the mail, you find a moment to Glance at the garden through the window. The roses bloom defiantly despite your best efforts, and a lone bee buzzes lazily from petal to petal. You consider the bee's life, simple, sweet, and unburdened by the tyranny of etiquette. You smile and get back to work. As the afternoon sun filters through the lace curtains, you prepare for another round of social grace, this time in the form of a bridge game in the drawing room. The ladies gather, their gloves pristine, their whispers sharp, and their eyes sharper. You watch from the sidelines, tasked with refilling teacups, delivering snacks, and making yourself as invisible as possible, until, of course, someone accuses another of cheating. That's when your diplomatic skills are tested. You gently remind everyone that the butler does not take sides, but will happily fetch more biscuits to calm nerves. A tense moment passes, biscuits are distributed, peace is restored. You breathe a quiet sigh of relief. Later, you escort a guest who insists on walking to the garden alone, despite your polite warnings about the muddy spots and thieves lurking in the bushes. You secretly suspect the only threat is his own clumsiness. In the garden, you watch as he marvels at the koi pond, tossing crumbs that cause a feeding frenzy beneath the water's surface. You smile. There is something peaceful about watching life continue, imperfections and all. You return inside to prepare for evening chores, your steps light despite the weight of expectations, because this is your rhythm now, the steady beat beneath the mansion's grandeur, a dance of quiet service, small victories, and a well-placed nod. The sun dips lower, painting the sky with hues of amber and rose, and you prepare for the evening's final act, the nightly report. In the servants' hall, the senior staff gathers to exchange news, complaints, and occasionally, smuggled biscuit or two. You present your notes with precision, inventory updates, guest requests, mysterious sounds reported by the chambermaids, and of course, the ongoing saga of the house cat. Laughter bubbles as tales of minor disasters and unexpected triumphs are shared. You listen, contributing just enough to remind everyone you're present but not interfering. Later, alone in your quarters, you reflect on the day. Each polished spoon, every carefully folded napkin, every quiet step taken in the service of order and grace. It all feels like a small victory against chaos. You sit by the window, watching the stars emerge one by one. The night is calm, but you know tomorrow will bring its own challenges. You take a deep breath and prepare to meet them all. Because being a butler isn't just a job, it's a way of life. The night deepens, but your mind remains alert. The mansion sleeps, but you are its guardian in the shadows. You make your final rounds, checking doors, extinguishing stray candles, ensuring the fireplace embers are safely contained. In the quiet halls, you hear the soft creak of settling wood and the distant hoot of an owl. You pause, listening to the sounds that few notice, but many depend on. The cat appears once more, sitting silently atop a velvet chaise lounge. You nod to it. It blinks slowly, granting silent approval. You smile to yourself. The weight of the day falls away like a well-worn cloak. You return to your room, shed your gloves and vest, and finally rest. The black velvet night outside your window is a comforting shroud, promising rest for both you and the grand old house. You close your eyes and drift into the quiet peace of a job well done. Morning arrives wrapped in fog, a soft blanket muffling the usual bustle of the estate. You awaken with the knowledge that today will bring new challenges, but also perhaps moments of unexpected joy. The first task is the preparation of the guest rooms. You move through the halls, checking bed sheets, fluffing pillows, and making sure that every teaspoon is aligned just so on the vanity. One room has been left in mild disarray, a sign of a particularly lively guest last night. You tidy with gentle hands, replacing a missing shoe and straightening a scattered stack of letters. As you work, you overhear a conversation between two guests debating the merits of the latest novel. You pause, listening to the earnestness of their voices, the dance of ideas and opinions. It strikes you, this house is more than marble and silver. It's a living, breathing place, full of stories. You smile quietly, folding the last blanket with care, and step back into your role, the silent thread weaving it all together. By late morning, you recall to a curious scene in the East Corridor, a dispute between two elderly cousins over a misplaced umbrella stand. One swears it was moved by an agent of chaos. The other insists it hasn't budged since Queen Victoria's third corgi. You are summoned as the final authority. You inspect the area, you nod thoughtfully, then, with the solemnity of a judge delivering a verdict, you shift the stand exactly 1 inch to the left. Both cousins seem satisfied. Another domestic treaty, signed, sealed, and handled with polish. Afterward, you're asked to oversee the reorganization of the butler's pantry. Again, not because it's out of order, but because a guest peeked in and commented that it had a charming disarray. You can't allow that. You empty shelves, realign jars, and recategorize the tea blends alphabetically by emotional tone, from calm sigh to existential fog. Just as you finish, a crash sounds from the conservatory. You investigate to find the parlor parrot, an escapee from a visiting aristocrat as traveling menagerie, has knocked over a flower arrangement and is now screaming what sounds very much like an insult in Italian. You return it to its perch with the kind of calm usually found in ancient monks and bomb technicians. As you leave, the parrot squawks, "Nice waistcoat." You are flattered. You add, "charming parrot negotiation" to your mental resume. By the time you return to the main hall, the afternoon bell is ringing, and the dog is proudly parading someone shoe like it as a national treasure. You retrieve the shoe, offer the dog a biscuit, and carry on. One step, one crisis, one odd compliment at a time. The afternoon wanes, and with it, strange sense of anticipation fills the halls. Perhaps it's the weather turning, or the lingering energy of yesterday's opera, or maybe it's simply the knowledge that something is always about to happen in this house. You are polishing the brass door handles because naturally, someone mentioned they lacked sparkle. When a commotion stirs near the stables, you arrive to find Lady Worthingstone trying to mount a horse. No one quite knows why. She claims she's felt called to equestrian pursuits, though she's wearing heels and carrying a parasol. You step in, gently redirecting her with the diplomacy of a UN ambassador and the subtle pressure of a well-placed tea tray. Perhaps later, you offer kindly, "After brandy." She nods, pretending it was her idea all along. Back inside, the cook asks for your assistance in locating a spice labeled Mystic Fennel. You search the larder. No fennel, but you do find a jar marked suspiciously licorice. You present it as a stand-in. The cook accepts it with a grunt, and dinner is once again saved by creative labeling. By now, the house begins its transformation. for the evening. Gas lamps hiss to life. Curtains are drawn. Chairs are moved by precisely 3 inches to account for emotional lighting. A new guest arrives. Lord Thimblethorpe, an old friend of the family, and a man who insists on being called Major, despite having never served. He hands you a monocle and says, "Guard this with your life." You nod solemnly and place it in a silk-lined box, because why wouldn't you? As the drawing room fills with polite conversation and uncomfortable shoes, you float among them, quiet and present, invisible yet essential. Someone laughs at a joke you didn't hear. Someone drops a biscuit. You catch it. No one notices, but you smile, because this quiet excellence, this seamless dance, is your realm. And tonight, like every night, you reign. Evening deepens, and the drawing room takes on that familiar golden hush, the one reserved for post-dinner chatter and genteel boredom. Someone plays the harp, badly. You smile anyway. It's the kind of soft chaos that comforts you now. You refill brandy snifters with the hand of a surgeon and the patience of a saint. Lord Thimblethorpe recounts a war story from a war that never happened, in a country no one can quite find on the map. No one corrects him. That too is tradition. You adjust the firewood, you straighten a rug with your foot while holding a platter of petit fours. You redirect a guest from sitting on a reproduction chair by whispering, "That one's decorative," as if it might explode. Then, just as things begin to settle, crisis. The bell from upstairs. Lady Worthingstone requests the emergency shawl. You know the one. The velvet wrap that lives in a glass box, only retrieved when her emotional temperature drops below mildly offended. You retrieve it, unlock the cabinet, unfold it with the care of someone handling ancient scrolls, and present it without comment. She drapes it around her shoulders. Peace is restored. As the evening winds down, you check the hallway candles, flames flickering, shadows dancing. You escort guests to their rooms, offering soft words and firmer footfalls. The dog trails behind you like a second shadow. The cat observes you from atop a bookcase, clearly writing your performance review in its mind. And finally, at the edge of the night, you find yourself alone in the corridor. You run a hand along the banister. You straighten one final crooked frame. You breathe in the scent of wax, wood, and quiet. The house is still. The day is done. And you remain, ever present, ever precise, a silent guardian of polished dignity and barely managed absurdity. Tomorrow will come, but tonight, the quiet is yours. The clock chimes midnight, a gentle, resonant sound that rolls through the halls like a lullaby for furniture. You've completed your last official task for the day, but you linger near the main staircase, eyes tracing the intricate scrollwork of the banisters as if searching for hidden messages. Down the hall, a faint noise. Not trouble, just the soft shuffle of someone looking for a midnight snack. You follow. In the pantry, you find one of the guests, barefoot, bashful, clutching an empty teacup like it's a lantern in a haunted house. You offer them shortbread and a knowing nod. No words exchanged. They retreat with their dignity intact and a biscuit in hand. You tidy up, restore the cup, and return to your path. But you don't go to bed just yet. Instead, you visit the portrait gallery, a habit now. You pass oil-painted eyes that seem to follow you, not with suspicion, but with familiarity. You nod to Lord Bartholomew, first of his name, inventor of the collapsible side table, to Lady Ada, whose powdered wig once caught fire during a winter solstice ball, to young Reginald, who famously got lost in his own hedge maze. You straighten a frame, you dust a corner, you listen, because the mansion talks at night, not in words, but in creaks and whispers, the breathing of wood and fabric and memory. And you understand it. You're its keeper, its voice, its hands. Eventually, you return to your quarters, undress with methodical grace, and sink into the bed like a feather pressed by time. Your body aches, your thoughts quiet, the house sleeps, and at last, so do you. You wake to rain, not a storm, just a gentle, persistent tapping against the window pane, like the sky itself is politely requesting entry. Rain days in the mansion carry a different energy. They hush the halls, soften the echo of footfalls, and make even the guests speak in tones usually reserved for libraries and confessions. You rise, dress, and begin your morning with the fireplace tour. Every hearth must be coaxed into life, the coals arranged like a puzzle only you know how to solve. Soon, warmth returns to the house, and with it, the scent of damp wool and lemon polish. In the drawing room, Lady Worthingstone declares it a day for correspondence. This means handwritten notes, scented envelopes, and a minor paper crisis, because the new stationery has too much personality. You are dispatched to retrieve the old stationery, ivory parchment with the faintest lavender watermark, located in the locked cabinet behind the globe, beneath the decoy cabinet, under the fake taxidermied owl. You retrieve it, with ceremony. The lady nods. You bow. Meanwhile, in the dining room, the ceiling has developed a drip, a single, solitary leak that falls directly into Lord Worthingstone's breakfast oatmeal. You divert it with a teacup. He grunts. This is the most affection you've received in months. A call from upstairs. Someone cannot locate their umbrella. You check the usual places, the hat stand, the umbrella urn, the mysterious third stair, where things inexplicably disappear. It's there, of course, half open, slightly damp, and next to a forgotten book titled The History of Mildly Uncomfortable Furniture. You deliver both. As the rain continues, the mansion folds inward. Afternoon brings an impromptu poetry reading by a guest with dramatic eyebrows. You stand at attention through all 7 verses of Ode to a Damp Morning. You do not yawn. You simply refill the tea and quietly move a vase to catch a second leak. The house breathes around you, and you, as always, are its rhythm. The rain lingers, growing slightly heavier, as if the clouds themselves have found something worth brooding over. Indoors, the atmosphere remains calm, too calm, and that, you've learned, is when things tend to unravel. It starts with the parlor clock. It stops ticking. No one notices at first. Time, after all, is more of a suggestion in this house. But then a guest remarks that tea seems late, and a second complains that the air feels unpunctual. You investigate. Inside the clock, a nest, not of birds, of lace. Someone has been stuffing doilies into the mechanism. You don't ask why. You simply remove them, reset the gears, polish the casing, and restart the rhythm of the household. Crisis. Resolved. Almost. Because now someone must be blamed. The suspects are narrowed to 3. The cat, the maid with a flair for decoration, or Lord Thimblethorpe, who once claimed to distrust clocks on principle. You diplomatically suggest no names. Lady Worthingstone accepts your silence as guilt. You bow, then move on. Later, in the east corridor, You're summoned to assist with an incident involving galoshes. What you find is a trail of muddy footprints shaped suspiciously like a goat's hoof. There is no goat on the property, not officially. You follow the trail to the stables and discover a visitor, S-Child, has been playing Beast of the Moors, using borrowed boots and some unsettling enthusiasm. You gently redirect them toward biscuits. They accept. You mop the floors, twice, then set lavender oil to burn near the entrance, just in case the hallway starts having flashbacks. As evening falls, the rain finally eases. The smell of wet grass and wood smoke drifts through the open window. You take a moment to breathe it in. Just a moment. Then the bell rings because someone wants warm milk, served not hot, not cold, but wistfully lukewarm. And you, of course, know exactly what that means. Evening arrives gently, like a curtain being drawn over the day. The rain has stopped, leaving droplets clinging to windows, and a hush wrapped around the estate like a velvet cloak. The lamps are lit. The floors glisten. The guests settle into that familiar twilight shuffle, part digestion, part existential malaise. You are called to prepare the blue room. This is no ordinary room. It's a guest suite reserved for dignitaries, bishops, and that one countess who insisted on having her portrait turned to face the wall because it blinked. The blue room has very specific requirements. The pillows must be fluffed at a 45-degree angle. The curtains must fall in identical folds, each one spaced no more than a thumb width apart, and under no circumstance should there be any sign of that smell, a faint scent, once described as Victorian melancholy. You open the windows, sprinkle lavender oil, slide fresh sheets onto the bed with a technique passed down through generations of invisible excellence. You light a fire in the hearth and place a copy of The Collected Musings of a Quiet Earl on the nightstand, just in case the guest enjoys insomniac brooding. The room is perfect for a full 12 minutes. Then comes the sound, a thud, a scrape. You investigate. It's the chandelier. A crystal has come loose. It dangles like a threat. You fetch a ladder, some gloves, and the small pouch of just-in-case gems stored behind the spice rack. You scale the ladder, replace the piece, and polish the others for good measure. No one will notice, and yet somehow everyone will. Downstairs, a guest has misplaced their monocle. You find it in the marmalade. You say nothing, just retrieve it, rinse it, and return it, wrapped in a cloth, scented with silent judgment. The fire crackles, the air settles, the room gleams, and outside, a lone owl calls out into the night. You answer with a nod, because in this house, even the wildlife expects professionalism. The mansion begins to dim, not just the lamps, but the tempo of everything. Voices soften, steps slow. Even the dog curls into a contemplative loaf beside the hearth. And yet, your work persists. Tonight, special request arrives. A guest would like a bedtime tray. Not food exactly, just a tray of calming things. You do not ask. You simply prepare. You include one warm linen cloth folded like a lotus, a porcelain dish with exactly 5 sugared almonds, never 6, a handwritten quote from Cicero about the virtues of silence, and a sprig of chamomile in a miniature vase the size of regret. You deliver it with reverence. The guest nods, eyes brimming with unnecessary emotion. You bow and disappear like fog through velvet. As you pass through the hall, you pause at the grand clock. It ticks with its usual gravitas, but something's off. A rhythm, barely perceptible. You listen. Then realize someone has placed a peppermint inside the pendulum casing. Why? No one knows. You remove it with tweezers, rebalancing the heartbeat of time. Crisis. Neutralized. Back in the kitchen, the cook hums tunelessly as she scrubs pots. You offer to help. She growls. You stay anyway, drying each pan with the gentleness of someone cradling ancient treasure. Midway through, she mutters, "Not bad." You mark that in your mental archive, under high praise from culinary deities. Later, you pass by the portrait of Lady Minerva, the family matriarch. Her oil-painted eyes follow you with the heavy wisdom of someone who once dueled over a recipe and won. You nod to her. She, probably, approves. As the mansion prepares to fully sleep, you perform your final rounds, checking locks, extinguishing stray lamps, and whispering thanks to the furniture for surviving another day. In the stillness, you linger by a window. Outside, the moon hangs low. Inside, your reflection stands tall. You are the quiet thread in this tapestry of spectacle and absurdity, and the night, once again, is whole. The quiet of night now wraps itself tightly around the mansion, broken only by the distant tick of a clock and the occasional, self-important creak of a floorboard with far too much personality. You're nearly done. Nearly. But nearly is where the trickiest moments tend to hide. You are in the corridor outside the music room when you notice the sheet music has rearranged itself, somehow upside down, pages scattered, and now featuring a doodle of what appears to be a chicken wearing a monocle. You know who did it. Of course you do. You do not confront. You simply correct. The music is realigned, the pencil erased, and the chicken left for your own quiet amusement. Then comes a message. One of the guests is feeling philosophical, which, in this house, means they want to talk at someone for an hour while sipping brandy and contemplating their reflection in dark glass. You oblige. You pour the brandy. You sit at a respectful angle. You nod thoughtfully every 7 seconds. The conversation drifts through forgotten love, unfinished novels, and a theory that spoons hold memory. You say very little, which is perfect. Eventually, the guest yawns and says, "Thank you, Jeeves." Your name is not Jeeves. You bow anyway. After midnight, the last light in the west wing flickers out. You head to the pantry to check inventory. Again, the cinnamon tin is gone, replaced by a jar labeled Chaos Mix. You stare at it, then put it back without comment. You make a note to discuss this with the cook. Eventually, your final act is the tea drawer. You straighten the tins, tuck a lavender sachet into the corner, and close it like sealing a letter you'll never send. The house is now fully asleep, except you. But that's the way of it. You're the watcher at the gates, the keeper of calm, the butler. And though no one sees the care behind every quiet act, the house knows, and that's enough. The wind outside carries the whisper of dawn, brushing against the window panes with the tentative touch of a guest unsure they were invited. Inside, you move through the mansion like a shadow trained in etiquette, performing your early rituals with barely a breath. You start with the great hall, polish the banister, adjust the umbrella urn, recenter the vase that shifts every night as though possessed by a ghost with mild OCD. In the dining room, you remove the breakfast menus no one reads and replace them with fresh ones no one will read either. But that is not the point. The point is order. The cook shouts from the kitchen, something about pears, something about sabotage. You investigate. Turns out someone stored the pears beneath the veal again, and now they smell of ambition and gravy. You make a quiet note. Move fruit to safer territory. She hands you a tray of warm rolls as a peace offering. This is the cook's version of thank you, and possibly I am sorry I accused you of mislabeling the dill. You accept. In the hallway, a guest is searching for the chess room. There is no chess room. You lead them to the library, place a board near the fire, and call it what they need it to be. They nod, satisfied. Later, you're asked to arrange a bouquet for the breakfast table. Nothing too cheerful, nothing too wilting, and absolutely no carnations. They make me feel judged. Lady Worthingstone once said, you select violets, rosemary, and something called honesty plant, which seems ironic, but smells lovely. The house stretches slowly into the day. Guests yawn behind embroidered handkerchiefs. Chairs scrape across marble. And somewhere, the cat is already plotting. You refill the tea urn, check the sugar tongs, realign the cutlery into silent formation. The table is ready. You are ready. And so begins another perfect improbable day under your watch. Mid-morning finds you near the conservatory, tending to the plants with the same careful attention you give to fine china. The ferns whisper secrets in the humid air, and the orchids stand like silent sentinels in the filtered light. You inspect the leaves for dust and pests, gently wiping them away with a cloth dampened in water and a touch of lemon. A secret recipe passed down from generations of butlers who understood that even plants deserve dignity. A sudden sneeze startles you, not your own. A visiting guest who has clearly underestimated the potency of Victorian pollen. You offer a handkerchief with a smile. The guest thanks you, eyes watery but grateful. Nearby, a gardener's hat hangs on a hook, slightly askew. You straighten it. It feels good to bring order. In the corner, a curious beetle crawls across a windowsill. You pause to watch it, imagining the small adventures it's had, unaware of the grand human dramas unfolding just feet away. For a moment, you find peace in that perspective, the quiet endurance of life, big and small. You return to your duties, stepping lightly as if the mansion itself might hold its breath, because in this house, even silence is orchestrated. Afternoon settles in like a well-tailored coat, heavy but comforting. The mansion's rhythm shifts subtly, the chatter softening to murmurs, and the clink of glasses mellowing into polite sips. You prepare for the daily ritual of afternoon tea, a delicate dance of timing, precision, and quiet judgment. You arrange the silver tea set on a polished tray, ensuring each piece is spotless and perfectly aligned. The teapot whistles gently as the water reaches the ideal temperature, never too hot, never too cold. You pour, lifting the kettle with the strength of a seasoned athlete and the grace of a dancer. Guests begin to gather in the drawing room, adorned in silks and whispered secrets. You circulate with practiced ease, offering cups and refilling plates of finger sandwiches and petit fours. A child tugs at your sleeve, curious about the silver spoons. You smile and show them the delicate engraving, a family crest, a history told in tiny details. Later, a guest accidentally spills a bit of tea. You react swiftly, producing a napkin with the precision of a surgeon and a calm that belies the chaos. The room barely notices. You breathe a quiet sigh. This is your world, where calmness reigns amid the tiny storms, and you are its keeper. As the sun dips lower, casting long shadows through the stained glass windows, you begin preparations for the evening Formal dinner, a highlight of the social calendar and a test of your unwavering composure. You oversee the meticulous setting of the table, ensuring every plate, glass, and utensil aligns with military precision. The silver gleams under the chandelier's warm light, and the crystal glasses sparkle like captured stars. Napkins are folded into intricate shapes, each one a silent statement of grace. You consult the menu, a carefully curated sequence of courses designed to impress and delight. You coordinate with the kitchen staff, confirming timing and presentation. Guests arrive in their finest attire, greeted with soft smiles and discreet nods. You navigate the room silently, anticipating needs and preventing mishaps before they occur. A guest thanks you quietly for your impeccable service. You nod in return, though inside you wonder if they realize just how much unseen effort supports the evening's elegance. Dinner progresses with practiced rhythm, courses served, glasses refilled, conversations gently encouraged and tempered. At one point, a guest spills a glass of red wine. You're there with a discreet napkin, a calm presence amid the blushes and apologies. As the final course is served and the candles burn low, you allow yourself a brief moment of satisfaction. Another flawless performance, another day and night where you were the invisible thread holding the mansion together. You glance toward the clock. It's nearly midnight. Time to begin the quiet ritual once more. The mansion has settled into the rhythm of late night, the hush of whispered conversations behind closed doors, the soft padding of slippers on polished floors, and the occasional creak that speaks of secrets better left unspoken. You make your rounds, ensuring every lamp is extinguished, every door securely latched, and every guest comfortably tucked away in their chambers. A sudden soft meow breaks the silence. The cat appears, weaving between your legs with the practiced ease of a royal emissary. You pause, offering a gentle hand. It brushes against your fingers before settling at your feet. For a moment, you stand in quiet companionship. The house feels alive, not with noise, but with the weight of history and unspoken stories. You check the clock. midnight. You return to your quarters. Your uniform is folded neatly on the chair, your shoes polished and waiting. You prepare for the night's rest, though you know sleep will come lightly, interrupted by the mansion's own rhythms. You lie down, close your eyes, and dream of polished silver, whispered thanks, and the unending dance of quiet service. Dawn edges closer, tinting the horizon with soft pinks and grays. You rise, alert despite the hour, knowing the day ahead will be full of the unseen demands that keep the mansion alive. First task, the morning fire. You kindle the hearths, coaxing embers to glow beneath blackened logs. The warmth spreads slowly, promising comfort to those who will soon stir from sleep. You move quietly through the hallways, adjusting curtains to let in the gentle light without disturbing the guests' dreams. In the kitchen, preparations begin in earnest. The cook oversees the bustling staff, barking orders while your presence quietly maintains order. You organize the trays for breakfast service, ensuring each is balanced perfectly to avoid disaster. The first bell rings, guests begin to stir. You are ready. Another day unfolds, complex, delicate, demanding. And you remain the steady hand guiding it all, the silent conductor in this orchestra of lives. Morning unfolds with the usual subtle chaos, the clatter of china, the murmur of conversations, and the soft shuffle of footsteps On marble, you navigate it all with the practiced grace of someone who knows that every small detail matters. A guest requests an extra pillow. You provide it. Another asks for fresh water. You deliver it. Behind the scenes, you coordinate the servants, discreetly guiding their movements like a maestro. At one point, a child wanders into the study, curious and uninvited. You kneel and offer a gentle smile, redirecting them with a quiet word and a small toy from your pocket. Later, you oversee the polishing of silverware, the arrangement of fresh flowers, and the folding of linens, all while maintaining a calm exterior. Your mind, however, never rests. You anticipate needs before they arise, solve problems before they become crises, because in this house, invisibility is a virtue and excellence a necessity. As midday approaches, the estate hums with activity. The air is thick with the scent of fresh bread, polished wood, and the faintest hint of lavender from the drawing room. You oversee the preparations for the afternoon's gathering, a book club for the ladies, where whispered debates about the latest novel mix with soft laughter and clinking teacups. You arrange the seating with care, ensuring that each guest has the perfect view of the garden beyond. A sudden sneeze interrupts the calm. You swiftly produce a handkerchief embroidered with the family crest and offer it with a polite nod. The host thanks you with a warm smile, and the conversation resumes. Later, you assist the valet with wardrobe adjustments, smoothing creases and shining boots until they gleam like polished obsidian. As the sun moves westward, you take a moment to stand by the window, watching shadows lengthen across the manicured lawns. You think about the day's accomplishments, small but essential, and prepare yourself for the evening ahead, because in this house, the day never truly ends. It simply shifts into a new act. Evening falls like a velvet curtain, and the mansion settles into its nightly rhythm. The guests gather in the drawing room for quiet conversation, the soft glow of lamps casting gentle shadows on polished wood. You move silently among them, offering drinks, refilling glasses, and managing the subtle ebb and flow of the evening. A guest compliments the arrangement of the flowers. You nod, accepting the praise with practiced modesty. The clock chimes softly in the background, marking the passage of time in this timeless place. As the night deepens, you prepare for the final rounds, checking locks, extinguishing candles, and ensuring every detail is perfect before retreating to your quarters. You sit by the window, reflecting on the day's quiet triumphs and small challenges. A soft breeze stirs the curtains. You close your eyes, and at last, allow yourself to rest. For tomorrow, the dance begins anew. You are the butler, the quiet heart of the mansion. The mansion sleeps, but your work continues. A silent vigil through shadowed corridors and moonlit halls. You move like a ghost, unseen but ever present, listening to the house breathe. A distant clock chimes twice. You pause, appreciating the steadiness of time in a place where everything else is unpredictable. The cat follows you silently, a small companion in the quiet. You check each locked door with care, adjusting the bolts and latches, ensuring no draft disturbs the stillness. Your thoughts drift to the day ahead, to the delicate balance you maintain between chaos and order. You whisper a quiet promise to the house. I'll keep you safe. The night holds its breath, and you, steady as ever, keep watch. The early morning fog blankets the grounds like a soft, gray quilt, muffling the sounds of the waking world. You're already on your feet, moving through the manor with the practiced precision of someone who knows every creak, every shadow, every sigh. You begin with the breakfast preparations, laying out china, polishing silver, and arranging fresh flowers with an artist's touch. The scent of brewing coffee mingles with the faint aroma of lavender from the linen closet. A sudden knock interrupts your work. It's the gardener, with news of a broken branch on the ancient oak tree. You nod solemnly, knowing this minor disaster will require your attention in the coming days. You set the branch's fate aside for now, focusing on the task at hand. As guests begin to stir, you prepare to greet the day with calm and grace, ready to navigate whatever the hours bring. Mid-morning arrives with the gentle clatter of teacups and the soft murmur of polite conversation. You circulate discreetly, offering refreshments and anticipating needs before they are spoken. A guest requests an extra blanket, claiming a chill in the air despite the warmth of the day. You retrieve a finely woven woolen shawl, folded precisely, and deliver it with a nod. Nearby, the household dog lounges lazily, occasionally eyeing the servants with what can only be described as dignified suspicion. You smile to yourself. In the pantry, you discover a jar of jam with an unidentifiable label. Curious, you taste a tiny bit, sweet, with just a hint of something spicy. You decide to catalog it under Mysteries of the Mansion. The afternoon promises new challenges, but for now, you savor this quiet moment of calm. As the afternoon sun filters through the stained glass windows, you prepare for the day's most delicate task, managing the guest list for the upcoming soiree. Names are checked twice, invitations refolded, and seating arrangements pondered with the seriousness of a chess grandmaster. A last-minute addition arrives, an eccentric poet known for his unpredictability and fondness for dramatic entrances. You make a mental note to have a quiet word with the head of security. In the music room, a young lady practices her scales, her notes wavering between haunting and hilarious. You pause, listening, allowing yourself a brief smile. The scent of freshly baked scones wafts through the halls, signaling the arrival of tea time. You oversee the serving with seamless efficiency, ensuring each guest receives their preferred blend and accompaniment. Amid the soft clinks and murmurs, you find a rare moment to breathe, appreciating the quiet elegance of your world. As twilight settles, you oversee the final preparations for the evening's entertainment, a theatrical reading by the visiting troupe. The drawing room is transformed with flickering candles and velvet drapes, creating an atmosphere of anticipation and mystery. You arrange the seating, adjusting chairs with a meticulousness that borders on obsession. The actors arrive, rehearsing lines under their breath and exchanging whispered jokes. You coordinate with the kitchen, ensuring refreshments are ready for the intermission. Tea, Petty's fours, and just enough brandy to inspire eloquence without scandal. The reading begins. Voices rise and fall, weaving stories of love, loss, and intrigue. You watch from the sidelines, ready to assist with quiet gestures and unobtrusive service. When the final line is spoken, applause fills the room. You smile, knowing your role was crucial in the evening's success. As guests depart, you extinguish the candles and prepare the mansion for sleep. Another day ends, another chapter in the endless dance of duty. The mansion lies still, under the cover of night. But your duties call you to one final task: the nightly check of the security measures. You move silently through the hallways, ensuring every door is locked, every window latched, and every bolt firmly in place. Your steps echo softly as you inspect the grand front doors, the servants' entrance, and the hidden passages known only to a select few. You pause at the portrait gallery, offering a quiet nod to the painted faces who have witnessed centuries of history and secrets. A soft rustle draws your attention to the library, where a book lies open on the floor, a volume of poetry, its pages fluttering in the faint draft. You replace it carefully, as if correcting the course of time itself. Satisfied, you return to your quarters, shedding your uniform and reflecting on the day's quiet victories. Tomorrow promises new challenges, but for now, you rest. The mansion sleeps, and so do you. Dawn breaks softly, washing the estate in pale gold. You rise early, as always, preparing the mansion for the bustle ahead. Your first task is the inspection of the garden paths, ensuring they are clear of leaves and debris. The morning dew glistens on the petals of roses and hydrangeas, each drop catching the light like tiny jewels. You pause to straighten a misplaced stone and adjust a weather vane spinning lazily in the breeze. Inside, the kitchen hums with activity, the cook barking instructions with a familiar mix of frustration and affection. You organize the breakfast trays, ensuring each is perfectly balanced and outfitted with fresh linens. As the first guests stir, you take a moment by the grand staircase, breathing in the calm before the day truly begins. You are ready, the mansion is ready, and so the dance resumes. Mid-morning brings the usual parade of requests: extra towels, a rearranged seating plan, and a frantic search for a missing glove. You handle each with the calm efficiency of someone who has learned to expect the unexpected. A guest requests a book on exotic birds. You locate it in the library, nestled between volumes on ancient warfare and Victorian gardening. You deliver it with a nod, resisting the urge to comment on the strange company it keeps. In the greenhouse, you tend to the rare orchids, misting their delicate petals and checking for signs of pests. The scent of earth and flowers mingles with the distant sound of a piano practicing scales. You pause, appreciating this moment of quiet. The mansion moves around you like a living organism, each part playing its role in perfect harmony. You are the steady heart, the silent conductor, the keeper of balance. The afternoon brings with it the preparation for a small gathering, a book reading followed by tea and light conversation. You arrange the seating with care, ensuring that every guest has a comfortable spot and a clear view of the speaker. You coordinate with the kitchen, confirming the selection of teas and the assortment of pastries to be served. As the guests arrive, you greet them with quiet warmth, directing them to their seats and attending to their needs with practiced grace. During the reading, a sudden sneeze breaks the silence. You are quick to offer a handkerchief embroidered with the family crest, which is accepted with gratitude. The event proceeds smoothly, punctuated by polite applause and thoughtful discussions. Afterward, you oversee the clearing of the room, ensuring that every item is returned to its proper place and that the space is ready for the next gathering. The day's pace slows, but your vigilance does not, for in this mansion, the details matter, and you are the guardian of them all. As evening approaches, you begin the preparations for the nightly lighting ceremony, a tradition dating back centuries that signals the winding down of the household. You gather the brass snuffers, tapers, and oil lamps with reverence, moving from room to gently lower the light and usher in the calm of night. The guests, sensing the change, begin to settle into quieter moods, their conversations softening to murmurs. You adjust curtains to block the chill and ensure the fireplaces are stoked just right to maintain a comfortable warmth. A stray breeze flutters a curtain, and you smooth it back with a practiced hand. In the music room, a harpist tunes her instrument, filling the air with gentle, soothing notes. You stand quietly nearby, appreciating the moment's serenity amid the day's bustle. Your role, though unseen, is the thread that holds the fabric of this household together. And as the lights dim, you know your work brings peace not just to the mansion, but to all within it. The mansion's heartbeat slows as night fully embraces its ancient stones. You make your final rounds, checking locks, extinguishing candles, and silencing the occasional creak or groan that threatens to disturb the stillness. In the grand hallway, the shadows play tricks, but you see through them with the clarity of a lifetime of experience. A sudden soft meow leads you to the library, where the cat sits perched atop a pile of books, its eyes gleaming in the firelight. You crouch, extending a hand. It brushes your fingers before leaping down and disappearing into the darkened corridors. You smile. The house is alive, but calm, ready for rest. And so are you. You retire to your quarters, the weight of the day lifting as you lay down to sleep. Tomorrow is another day, another chapter in the endless story of service and silent excellence. Dawn breaks again, soft and golden, washing over the estate like a promise. You rise, ready to begin the day anew, knowing that every moment will demand your steady presence and careful touch. You move through the halls, adjusting the curtains to welcome the light and setting fresh water in crystal carafes for the breakfast tables. The cook greets you with a nod, a silent acknowledgement of the unspoken partnership that keeps this household running. You prepare the silver trays, balancing them expertly as you move to greet the guests. The day stretches ahead, full of whispered requests, delicate negotiations, and the quiet orchestration of order amidst chaos. You smile quietly, ready for whatever the hours bring, because in this house, you are more than a butler. You are the steady heart at its center. Mid-morning brings a flurry of activity, requests for extra blankets, rearranged seating, and a sudden need for a fresh pot of tea that nobody can quite explain. You navigate the whirlwind with practiced calm, knowing that your quiet efficiency keeps the household afloat. A guest asks for a book on ancient architecture. You locate it among the towering shelves, nestled between volumes on botanical studies and family genealogies. You deliver it with a discreet smile, resisting the urge to comment on the eccentric mix. In the conservatory, you inspect the orchids, misting their petals and checking for pests with a gentle touch. The faint strains of piano practice drift through the air, providing a soothing soundtrack to your work. You pause to savor the moment, the harmony of life unfolding around you. And you, the silent conductor, guide it all with grace. The afternoon sun filters through the lace curtains, casting delicate patterns across the polished floors. You prepare for the next social engagement, a small tea party hosted in the drawing room, where whispered conversations and delicate laughter intertwine. You arrange the silver teapots and porcelain cups with precision, ensuring each guest's preferences are noted and attended to. A sudden sneeze breaks the gentle hum. You swiftly offer an embroidered handkerchief, receiving grateful thanks. You oversee the serving of scones and finger sandwiches, all while maintaining a quiet watch over the ebb and flow of the gathering. Later, a guest requests a quiet room for reading. You guide them to a cozy nook by the fireplace, complete with soft lighting and a stack of well-loved books. As the party winds down, you begin the subtle task of clearing and restoring order, leaving no trace of the lively afternoon behind. You smile quietly, knowing these small moments weave the fabric of the household's grace. As evening descends, you begin preparations for the nightly ritual of lights dimming and fires lighting. You move from room to room, igniting candles and tending to fireplaces. Each flicker of flame, a small beacon of warmth in the gathering dusk. Guests begin to retire to the drawing room, where soft conversations replace the day's bustle. You refill glasses, adjust seating, and smooth the wrinkles from tablecloths with practiced ease. A stray breeze threatens to blow out a candle. You steady the flame with a gentle breath and a subtle smile. The house settles into its evening rhythm, a dance of light and shadow, sound and silence. You stand quietly by the hearth, taking in the scene: polished silver, soft laughter, the steady ticking of clocks marking time. Your presence, though unseen, holds the balance. And as the night deepens, you prepare for your final rounds, ready to usher the mansion into restful peace. The mansion now lies quiet under the moon's gentle gaze, every corner softened by shadows and the faint glow of dying embers. You move through the halls one last time, your footsteps echoing softly against the polished floors. Locks are secured, lamps extinguished, and curtains drawn to shield the sleeping household from the night outside. In the library, a single book lies open on a desk, a testament to the day as small mysteries and quiet stories. You close it gently, placing it where it belongs. The cat watches you with sleepy eyes before curling into a warm ball by the fireplace. You smile, feeling the familiar weight of fulfillment and quiet pride. As you prepare to rest, your thoughts drift to the countless invisible acts that shape this home, each one a thread in the tapestry of service. You lie down, the quiet enveloping you like a soft shroud. Tomorrow will dawn again, bringing its challenges and triumphs. But for now, you rest, because you are the butler, and this house, this life, is yours to hold.